Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I have some really fun card ideas for you, and we are going to make a topiary. Now I bet you have supplies you can do this project with already at home, but if you don't, these videos are sponsored by Rubber Stamp Tapestry. You can find them online at pegstamps.com. We're going to use some of their tiny little peg stamps, which are so handy for projects like this, and we're also going to use the container stamp from the Just Add Flowers set, which is nice because you have so many different things that you can stamp other things in. So if you have a lot of these little peg stamps or other smaller stamps, something like this is ideal, and they do have a lot of unmounted stamps like this that are designed to work with smaller stamps. And the other thing we're going to use is this new sentiment set called Whispers from the Garden, and I wanted to make a couple friendship cards because I think those are fun to send. So I'm going to use the sentiments, friends are the flowers in the garden of life, and friends are like flowers, they can bring color to your world, and I did those on the inside of the cards because, as you know, I am not a poet. I do not write big, long sentiments in my cards. I like to keep it short and sweet. So I thought I would try with some shaped dies. You probably have butterflies, hearts, any basic shape is going to be fine. And I also thought it would look really cute and traditional as a circle. So if you just have a circle die or a circle punch, or you want to trace a medicine bottle and use that for your template, that is totally fine. I'm working on cream heavyweight cardstock today, and I like cream cardstock just because I think this gives it a nice a kind of, it gives it kind of an elegant feel. I just want to kind of center it up, and if your Post-it note is bigger than your paper, just hold it up to the light and you can be able to tell if you're centered up or not. I just kind of stamped that pot down earlier to see if I thought I'd have enough room on a regular card, which I think I do. So because I have a Post-it note, it's going to hold it down in place, and that's really going to help me as I do my stamping. So the first stamp I'm going to use is a brand new one. It's from the Robin's Nest set, and I'm going to stamp this in Espresso Truffle, which is kind of a grade brown. As always, use what you have. And I don't want to stamp it right in the middle. I always want to stamp this a little bit off center. And that's almost a black. I mean, it looks so dark here. And then I'm actually going to cap this up for now because I don't need it again for a little bit. And now I'm going to stamp in some roses from my favorite stamp set from Rubber Stamp Tapestry, Brambly Rose. There's actually a couple different size roses in this set. I'm just using the smaller one because the bigger one would be too big for, you know, the scale of this this topiary here. I just keep thinking, when I look at these, I think of Alice in Wonderland. Doesn't this seem like something the Queen would have in her garden and the playing cards would be painting? I just think it's so fun and whimsical. Now the next stamp I'm going to use is actually from Fresh Lemonade, but if you have been peg stamping for a while or stamping in general and collecting a lot of stamps, you can use whatever you have that's going to fit the bill. I just like this because it's a nice cascade of layered leaves that are different in scale. Like, you've got a bunch of different sizes there, so I feel like it fills the area really well. Now, one thing that I did making these cards was I made a mask for this little robin's nest so that I could stamp over it and not worry. So I'm just going to put this robin's nest right on top. It's pretty much a circle, so if I don't get it lined up exactly right because it's got a lot of ink over it, it shouldn't make a big deal. And I like to have the kind of leaves coming out from that nest so it kind of looks like it's on a branch. I really like to fill in quite a bit with these leaves wherever I can fit them in because I like the shape of them. I like the layering of them, and I just think it's a really nice set. But it is kind of big, so you can't fit it in everywhere. So just kind of keep that in mind and kind of sneak it in where you can, and don't be afraid to overlap. Now I also have some other leaves so that I can fill in a little bit more, and I wanted to make sure I had some rose leaves, so I'm going to go with a little bit darker here. This is Cottage Ivy. I'm going to stamp some of these rose leaves here and there because I want it to really feel like it's a manicured rose bush. I don't know if they can manicure them this well, but in my world they can, and in your world you can have whatever tree you want. And then I'm going to take a blending brush. It's kind of like a men's shaving brush. It's called the ink blending brush, and Rubber Stamp Tapestry usually has those in stock, but they do sell out fast. They are popular. And basically what you want, you can wash these, but I'm going to show you what I like to do. I like to have kind of like one for each color family. Since I use green a lot, I have a dark green one and a light green one, but I'll have one for, you know, turquoisey blues, one for like more bright blues, I'll have one for darker blues, one for pink, one for red, you know, so you don't have to have a ton, but it is nice to have a few for different colors. I just have an easier time with those versus versus some of the other, like the blending sponges. I've seen some people do beautiful work with blending sponges, but I always seem to get weird lines. And then I want to bring in a darker green. It's kind of almost like a midnight green, and I want to do a few of those rose leaves with that color. It's really dark, so just be warned. It will look almost black here. But I really like it. I like getting those darks in there. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it though, so just kind of keep that in mind. I don't think I'm going to put any more of those in there because it is pretty full, but I did want another little dark element, and I've got this little guy here, so I am going to sneak him in. And this is also from the Lemonade set. But again, just think of your scale, use what you have, and you're going to be fine. So now I'm going to remove our mask since we have all of our color for our topiary there, and we can remove our little mask for our nest. And now what I'm going to do is stamp the pot that our topiary is going to be in. You want to stamp your pot before you try to stamp, before you try to draw the branch or the stem, the trunk of your tree. And I'm going back to that espresso truffle that I stamped the bird's nest with because I like to repeat my colors so that everything is nice and coordinating. And I'm going to stamp that real close to the bottom so I can get a nice long trunk in there. And just try to center it up underneath. If it's not perfect, don't stress out about it, but try to get it lined up pretty well underneath. And then I'm going to use some markers to draw kind of like a braided, I'm thinking of like a braided ficus. So you just start by doing a wiggly line, and I'm doing this with my lightest brown. I'm mixing and matching my markers here. I've got Zig Clean Color, I've got Arteza, and I've got Mozart brush pens. They're all wonderful. You know, you don't need to have them all. They're all great. And I'm getting that just kind of the basis of my little topiary down. It really does look like a topiary when you get to this point, so so that's nice. And then I'm just going to throw in just some little shadows just by adding a little dark here and there. And really that's all there is to it. Now for coloring the pot, I'm going to start in with its darkest color. I'm just using regular cardstock. It's not meant for watercoloring. It's not meant for alcohol markers. It's just the heavyweight Recollections cardstock that I usually recommend. What I usually do, because I don't have a Michaels nearby, is I will wait until I'm going to the big city of Augusta, Maine, which is like twice a year, and I will buy a ream of the colors that I need. I do see that Amazon sells it as well, but their shipping is high, or actually no, the price is high, and I'm sure it's high because it's a heavy package to ship. So if you're desperate and you really want this cardstock, that's an option. But if you know you're going to be, near a Michaels sometime in the near future, that you can get it there too. And I actually did find some at, it's not the Recollections brand, and I haven't used it yet, but Joann's had a heavyweight cardstock, which I was really pleased to find. And I did pick some up because I was running low, but I haven't used it yet, so I can't recommend it, but it does seem like it's going to be real thick. And I actually have used, they have a craft, I have used the craft, and that's fine. So there you have it. Haven't used the cream or the white yet. Okay, and then we're just going to let that dry, and then we'll do some little effects on that to make it a little nicer. And we're going to use some colored pencils. I'm going to go in and color our eggs a nice kind of robin's egg blue. And again, doesn't matter what kind of pencils you have. And I'm going to go in with a kind of like a tan, yellow, ochre color marker and color the nest really lightly. I don't want to cover up all of my ink, but I want to make sure that I don't have like a white halo around my nest. So if you do have a little white halo, like your mask was too big, just let it extend a little bit. And something that I found looks really nice is to grab one of those brown, one of the brown markers that you used, and just kind of tap in there. It's not going to stick too much over the colored pencil, so it kind of helps temper it, because sometimes markers can be a little overwhelming on cardstock, and you can be afraid about ruining your piece. What happens when you go over the markers when you've had a little colored pencil down first is it resists a little bit, so some of that marker is going to seep down to the paper, and then it's going to skip over some areas. So it does give you a nice more natural look, which I like. And then if you want to add some shadow to any of our little elements here, you can just take a green marker and, make sure it's not darker than anything you have. just give it a little slice of shadow under some of those roses, maybe under the nest, and that will just pop them out from the surface a little bit. Now, I originally had intended to, and I'm just going to tone on a little bit more of the green, some green, if I didn't think my ink blending was enough. Now, I originally thought I would lay this down on top of a texture pad, one of those old Fiskars texture pads I've had forever, and dry emboss it from the back. So I had a little bit of a bumpiness under the topiary. But after I was done, I really didn't think it needed anything else, and I just didn't want anything to distract from it because I thought it was looking really nice. The nice thing about colored pencils, these are polychromos, so they're not very opaque. Any colored pencil is going to be fine. Even, you know, whatever you can grab from your kids' art supply bag is totally fine. If you don't have any are going to work fine for this. But I love that I can color over this, and look, I can still see all of the other things I stamped. It's like layer upon layer, texture upon texture, and I just think it looks fantastic. You can also add a little more toning to your roses in this manner. So if I go over these roses, you're still going to see the stamping because that ink is a little bit darker. It's just going to layer a little color on top, and you're going to have like a brighter color flower. Now, if you feel like, oh geez, I don't have enough highlight, this is a China marker, and it's got a little more sticking power than like a regular colored pencil. If you've ever, you might have used like these on overhead transparencies when you were younger, and usually they were black, but you can get them in a few different colors. The white ones are really neat for stick. They're like a super soft colored pencil, and they will stick on top, which is really fun for projects like this. So now I want to do a little bit of work for the background here. And I am going to start by grabbing my duster. I'm going to grab the lighter one in my bamboo leaves. It's kind of like it's almost like a sap green color. And I'm going to start dusting that on my card. And I can even go right up to the pot. You don't really want a halo around the pot. And we're going to do a little treatment on the pot. So don't be afraid to get it to overlap it a little bit. And you can even overlap on the tree trunk a little bit, and it's not going to hurt anything. Now I'm gonna show you a tip here in a second, because my blue color duster is in need of cleaning. Now you might think, well, why would you clean it? You've got ink on there. But I'll tell you, even I won't even ink up because I've just inked up earlier, and you might be able to see when your bristles start to clump together. Sometimes that'll happen because you've just used so much ink, and sometimes it will happen because maybe you accidentally used like a distressed oxide ink on your dye-based ones, or some other pigment ink, something that wasn't like just a light dye-based ink, or you just have too much ink on there. You'll start to see a little bit of a scratchiness. And that's when you know it's probably time to go wash it and let it dry, and then, reload it again, start using it again. It's not a huge deal. I wouldn't like toss a card for it at all, because I mean, it still looks pretty, but you can kind of see right in there, that is a telltale sign that your brush probably needs to be washed. Just wash it, let it completely dry, and then you can use it as usual. And I want to give us a little bit of a border because I'm going to be putting this right on a cream card base. So you could totally do this. If you are neater than I am when you craft, you can totally just make this on your card base and be all the hunky-dory. I would have fingerprints all over the back of it. I'm not even going to go there. So if you want to conserve some supplies, that is a totally great way to do it. So I always save my masks, even if they're the little ones like the bird's nest, as long as I don't lose them. I save them and I keep them in a little envelope with my stamp set. So I just tuck that right in there. These are like CD pockets. You can get like 500 for like $10 on Amazon. That's what I use. You could use a baggie for that matter. It doesn't matter. And I just save my masks so I don't have to stamp them and recut them out when I am in the throes of crafting. I don't want to stop and make a mask if I don't have to. So you can use them indefinitely. If they get too inky or ink seeps through and the back is dirty, then you probably want to chuck them. But I have been using this for a long time. Now, I also am an advocate about keeping your peg stamps together, like in a big bin or something, rather than in the little cases they come in, because I think when you do that, you end up with, you'll see stamps together that you might not have put together in the past, and it can really spark some really great creative ideas. I'm using that real dark ink again here, just like we did on those really dark flowers, because I feel like we need to tie that in. And plus, ferns are really dainty, and that will kind of help them stand out a little bit. So I like to keep all my stamps together. I'll use them once, because it's my job. I'll use them once together, like on a card usually, to show you kind of an idea if you just have that one stamp set, what you can do with it. But Beyond that, I like to put them in a big bin, a big box, so I can see them, see their ends all together, and I get the best ideas that way, kind of seeing how they interact and what they end up next to each other. Oh, I want to do a little stamping in the pot too. We're gonna have some little weeds growing out of that pot. That will be kind of cute, I think. So being able to see those options, I think, is really handy, and it can help you come up with some really great stuff. So by putting our little keeping our mask on there, we won't stamp over our pot. I don't know if you'd be able to see it anyway, but that'll just keep us from making a mess. I love this little leaf from the Fresh Lemonade Stand. It works with so many other sets, and it's just so dainty and pretty. There we go. All right, now one of my favorite things to do is to play with media. So I actually recently put my colored pencils and like a bunch of my crayons and stuff right within reach on my crafting table downstairs, so I could just grab what I want. And it makes me use those supplies that have been kind of sitting in tins on my shelf. For whatever reason, opening a tin seems to be too much of a job for me, and I just let them sit there. So I decided that I would put them out so I could just grab them when the mood arises. This is a sparkly gel crayon. They are really fun, really inexpensive. I will link these up in the video description, but they're just put a little on there. I'm not covering up my coloring, not that it took forever, but I'm still not covering it up, and it's just giving me a little bit of body. It's blending my colors visually, and it's giving me a little bit of shimmer. I can add a little bit of a like kind of an aqua, like teal color here, and that will give me a little bit of patina. And it's not super, aggressive. It doesn't stand out a lot, but it does give me a nice little effect. And I could put on a little bit of white and give it a little bit of oops, that's a little too much. A little bit of a patina that way. And if you get too much on there, these are water soluble, so all you got to do is take like a wet paintbrush and just wipe it off. Not too wet though. You don't want to. This is just cardstock after all. It's not watercolor paper. But there you go. It just gives you, and if you hold it to a different light, it just gives you another look. And I do feel like I need a little bit of shadow under that plant pot, so I'm just going to go in with that green marker, since we use that for some shadows on our topiary, and just kind of drag some of that up from the bottom there. Make some little grasses. And again, if you get something that's too strong, you can use a little bit of water on your cardstock and just kind of spread it out a bit. All right, now my hands are kind of dirty, so I recommend at this point stop, go wash your hands. I'm not going to, because I'm going to keep this show rolling here. So here is my card base. On the inside, I am going to stamp one of my lovely sentiments. I really like this one, so let's do this one in our espresso truffle. That's a nice neutral, and we've been using it all along, so you want your inside of your card to kind of go along with the outside of the card, so it all feels deliberate. Hopefully I stamped that right side up. I did. Yay! Okay, now we're going to take our rose stamp again. This is such a simple little treatment. It takes you like an extra 10 seconds, but I think it really makes a big difference in, in the quality of the card. Then I'm just going to take the Bamboo Leaves green. It's my favorite green ink. I've probably re-inked this one 3 or 4 times because I just love this ink so much. By the way, Rubber Stamp Tapestry is selling Memento re-inkers on their website now. So I didn't line it up very well, but I can't stick my head in front of the thing while I'm doing it when I'm filming, or you just see the back of my head. But Rubber Stamp Tapestry is carrying Memento inks now, and that is wonderful because instead of buying a new ink pad, you just buy the re-inker, and those little dewdrops can probably be re-inked about 9 times with that bottle. So it's a great way to save money, and a bottle of re-inker is about the same size, same price as a new ink pad. So there you go. And then we're just going to line that right up and press her down with our scrap paper so I don't smudge it. I want to thank you so much for watching today. These were so much fun to make, and look how adorable they are. Really, we made this card in under 20 minutes, and it would be so fun to pop in the mail to your friend today. If you are curious about any of the products I used, make sure you click the links in the video description and visit our sponsor, Rubber Stamp Tapestry, at pegstamps.com. Thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up before you go. Until next time, happy crafting.